Welcome to this Killik Explains finance video. This week, the best way to invest, my 5 top tips. Now, what are those top tips? Well, in a nutshell, and then we'll go through them one by one, DIY investing doesn't suit everyone, so don't be bullied by newspapers into taking that approach if it's not right for you. Number 2, if in doubt, drip feed, but only if in doubt. Number 3, don't pay too much tax, an old favourite of mine. Number 4, pick the right tool for the job. And number 5, don't shortchange yourself by behaving oddly when it comes to investing. More about that in a moment. So, let's go through those one by one. DIY is not for everyone. What are the options? Well, you can be a DIY investor, make all the decisions yourself, without advice, without help. And that will mean you're probably using an execution-only platform of some sort, maybe all online. But some people do want help with their investing strategy, building portfolios, diversifying, investing tactically. And for them, an advisory relationship might work. Then there are people who want to hand over the whole job to somebody else, and that's called discretionary investment management. Now, there are perfectly valid reasons not to feel like you have to be a DIY investor. First of all, you might have enough knowledge to do it, but not the time. Perhaps you're a busy professional, for example. You may have the time, but not the knowledge. You may feel you're not knowledgeable enough to actually do investing all by yourself. And if you have the time and the knowledge, but you can't be bothered, you'd rather hand it over to somebody else, and that's fine. Life is busy after all, then a DIY approach may not be right for you. So think carefully before deciding. Number 2, if in doubt, drip feed, but only if in doubt. What do I mean by that? Well, if we look at a 60-40 stock and bond portfolio according to Vanguard, over the UK market 1976 to 2015, a couple of interesting things pop out. Vanguard reckon an immediate lump sum investment would have outperformed 70% of the time, whereas a drip feeding approach would only outperform 32% of the time, and the size of the outperformance is 2%. So you might say game, set and match to the lump sum approach. Maybe not. Just take a look at this. In volatile markets, now if you look at what's happened to the unit price over these various periods I've made up here, it starts at £5, dips and gets back to £5. Now watch what happens next. If I invest a lump sum of £1,000 at the start and wait, at the end, I've basically got 200 units. Why? Because £1,000 at £5 a unit buys 200. What I start with, I end with. But look at this. If I drip the £1,000 in as 4 lumps of 250, that means I buy more units as the market falls and I finish with 50 more at the end. So, drip feeding can be useful in volatile markets and/or when investors are feeling nervous. Now, just a few rules of thumb. So, smaller lump sum, drip-fed sums are better for cash flow potentially. It also reduces the risk of an immediate hit. So it reduces the risk you go into the market and it drops straight away. And it reduces the prevarication risk, that's sitting in cash on the sidelines wondering when to go in. But you need to be systematic about it. Watch the fact that you may be sitting on cash for longer with a drip feeding approach than you would otherwise. And regular amounts should be adjusted over time to reflect things like inflation. So, can be useful, can work in the right market conditions, but be careful with the approach. Next, don't pay too much tax. Now, I'll cover this fairly fast. With the end of the tax year approaching, individual savings accounts, for example, are a great way to save tax effectively. Around £15,000 per person can go in. Tax-free income and capital gains on eligible investments follows thereafter. Withdrawals are allowed at any time, and there's total flexibility about the cash and investment split. And the power of an ISA, this is a chart some of you will have seen before, is quite dramatic potentially. The pink bars represent the amount paid in, £125 a month over 25 years in this case, and the green bars, the potential, stress potential, tax-free growth. So at, say, an FCA regulator mid-rate of 5%, you could be in a situation where you've basically doubled the amount in there through tax-free growth before charges. Not guaranteed, but worth thinking about. Number 4, pick the right tool for the job. Now basically this is, do I use passive or do I use active? I would say it depends. A passive approach is great. This is where you're tracking an index, for example, where the aim is pure exposure, the underlying index is well structured, and you want a simple strategy at a sensible cost. So if you're just looking to follow the US market, an S&P 500 tracker or SPDR might be the right tool. But if you're looking for more than that, you want risk management, a tactical approach and flexibility. There isn't an underlying index or it's structured poorly, emerging markets, certain sectors for example, and you're worried that in a passive approach you'll just track the market down as well as up, well, think about active management. It does have a place. Finally, don't shortchange yourself. Now, this is not behavioural psychology in 1 minute, but here are 4 top tips here. Classic traps, irrational thinking, it can't get any cheaper, so I'll buy now. Actually, shares can go all the way to zero and sometimes do. Number 2, cutting winners. I always bank a 10% gain. Sounds systematic, but you might cut something that could give you multiples of that if you let it run. Number 3, herding. This many people can't all be wrong. Yes, they can be, and lots of investors end up buying high and selling low as a result, the exact opposite of what they should be doing. Anchoring. I'll only sell this stock once I get back to what I paid for it. Dangerous thinking, and I cover that in more detail in other videos. So there you have it, 5 top tips on the best way to invest. Any questions to the usual place, and don't forget about our extensive library at killik.com/learn.